Yes.
All right, good evening, everyone. We're here for the December 5th Audit Committee meeting. Full board is present. This should be a quick agenda because we met last month. We did not prepare updated copies of our usual reports. So the school lunch fund and profit and loss, the claims auditor reports, our summary document of expenditures and what we've encumbered. All of those will wait for our next meeting in, I believe, January.
February actually, it's
February.
right now.
Okay, all right, so our next meeting in February, we will review, yes, February 6th, thanks, Jim. So we'll go over those updated reports in our next meeting in February. So for this meeting though, a couple of agenda items. First is just looking over the minutes from our November 7th meeting. Anyone have any comments or questions on the minutes? Okay, great. Second item is a discussion that was of an item that came up in the November 7th meeting that had to do with the use of public funds. So our claims auditor had raised the issue as to whether using district funds to purchase pins or other items for athletic program participants was an appropriate use of public funds. We've now looked into the issue, and Jim, you want to report out?
So the issue of pins is, I want to say at best, a gray area. It's one of those things that's in the manual for claims auditors, as certain things are not allowed and certain things are, and other things are really kind of iffy. What they're talking about there is if you were going to give it to an entire graduating class, or if you were going to give it to the entire school district, a pin, just like a V pin or something like that for every single student. Since this is actually about an accomplishment, serving, we're in sports, that you've done your year, it's not against the rules at that point, and it's a very small amount. I'm going to use a term that I shouldn't use because I'm not an attorney, but it's de minimis. It's very small, very insignificant. $255 was the amount for the entire year to replenish the whole group of all of the pins that were used in the prior year, and probably even more. They usually buy like a pack of 30 instead of the 5 that are handed out, when they get low. So that's basically the situation.
So the sort of line in the sand is if it's I'll call it a gift to recognize a specific accomplishment, it's permissible.
Generally, yes, and that includes like teacher retirement gifts. Those are permissible as well. Even though they're technically a gift of public funds, it's recognizing an accomplishment. So
We do, so schools also do perfect attendance awards or academic achievement awards. You can buy pins for that. It's the same exact ideas because it's acknowledgement of something. So it's not technically a gift, it's an acknowledgement. But those other ones are ones that we've done in the past.
Okay. All right, so in light of the discussion, does anyone have concerns about the issue? Francine's not here, and I know we are searching for a replacement for her.
Sure.
I suppose we can raise this with our next claims auditor just to kind of close the loop on this, but everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. All right, so the next issue we have on our agenda is a discussion of low-income senior exemption and veterans exemptions for property taxes. So I'll try and do a summary, and then I'll turn it over to you, Jim.
please, you probably know a heck of a lot more about this than I do. So.
No, it's complicated stuff. So basically the law allows for what's an exemption, right? It's usually in a set dollar amount that comes off the top of the assessed value of your property in determining your property tax assessment. So it's kind of like your school tax, your STAR relief, which comes off the top if you meet the qualifications. There are additional exemptions that low-income seniors and veterans can qualify for. And we have those exemptions in place currently at the lowest levels allowed by statute. And sort of setting the stage.
Is this 0 the lowest level?
I think,
If you don't have to agree to an exemption.
So, correct, the senior
But if you
citizen.
do agree to an exemption.
Yes.
There are levels.
Okay, so there's two different pieces. There's the senior exemption, which has one maximum level, which was turned into a second maximum level much higher by the governor's action earlier this year. Then there's the veterans exemption, which has 3 levels within it. It's the wartime veteran, it's a combat service veteran, and it's a disabled veteran. So that has actually 24 different levels that you can choose from. Who knows why, but they're lettered from A to X, and you can choose any one of them. The standard level is 12,000, 20,000, 40,000 for those 3 classifications. That's the level that you just, if you put it in place, that's what it is.
Is that where we're at now?
No, we are currently at level C, which is 6,000, 10,000, 20,000, half of that level. So that's the discussion at this point, because it was brought up by a taxpayer who had their disability level changed, and they wanted to know why their exemption didn't change. And the reason it didn't change was because we have that cap at $20,000.
Gotcha.
So, the board has the authority to make a change whenever they want in those levels. But we wanted to start the discussion here so that we could have some of the discussion and there could be action if you decide to change either of the exemptions in January or February, because it has to be in place by March 1st for it to affect the upcoming year.
and whatever the exemption level is, will impact the property tax rolls in all of the jurisdictions in which we have taxpayers contributing to the school's budget.
So if I'm not eligible for an exemption, but somebody else is, that exemption that they're benefiting from is gonna be spread across all other taxpayers.
Correct.
So what any exemption does when you raise it up, it lowers the actual amount of property that's being taxed, which would raise up the tax rate, yes.
Because the tax burden is determined, and then it gets spread among eligible taxpayers as a percentage of their assessed property values.
And as I noted, it's not, I don't remember what I noted. Never mind. There's something that I know.
So do we have, Jim, from this taxpayer an actual request to adjust the exemption levels?
Frank was the one who spoke to him more thoroughly
Yeah,
about this.
so he actually was asking why it didn't change, why it didn't go up, and he asked if, we would look into it to see if we could make it what he considered to be right. So it kind of changes to both. So was it an official letter saying, yes, please change? No, but would they, would that taxpayer like us to look into it and see if anything can be done for it? The answer is yes.
Okay, so I think anyone have questions at this point about how all this works? So I think the question for the board is, do we want to go through the exercise of examining the different exemption levels that apply for the seniors and the veterans and the different classifications of veterans, and explore whether we should raise the levels? And I think the understanding is that will have an impact on tax rules and jurisdictions beyond just the district. So we can choose basically to leave it as is, we don't have to change it, or we can explore whether that's something that we wanna do. It doesn't directly impact our budget because our tax levy is our tax levy.
And that's what I noted that I forgot. That it doesn't actually affect the tax levy, it doesn't affect the tax cap, because that isn't a part of the discussions.
Okay, can I ask a question? So this man who's a veteran said his level of disability had changed?
Yes, the VA had determined that his level of disability had gone up.
That has nothing to do with the application of these exemptions.
It does, because the percentage for a disabled vet,
Yeah?
you cut that in half, and that's the maximum percentage they can get off their taxes.
Say that again?
So, let's say the percentage that he's determined at is 50, I'll make it up.
Determined disabled.
Determined disabled by the VA, 50%.
Okay.
He can get a maximum 25% exemption from his assessment, up to the cap, whatever has been set by the district. So if the cap, if he went from 20 to 50 and he was already at the max at 20, it's not gonna change when he goes to 50. But if that cap is higher, he would get a higher benefit.
So we're talking about one person.
One person who brought it to our attention, I'm sure there are a number of people who would be affected.
This can't be applied selectively to that one person?
This is a universal change. This is, you set the level and everyone's at that level.
Right, and Jim, you did the analysis of, I thought of how many taxpayers potentially could be impacted?
I have not yet.
Okay,
First, I wanted to know whether or not you wanted me to get that deep into it.
okay.
You said it wouldn't impact anyone, it would impact beyond our, it impacts our district, it would impact beyond our town.
It would
Right.
impact any taxpayers potentially who pay taxes to the Voorheesville School District and other taxpayers. Would it impact
Only
other-
the ones within our district.
Which is different town.
So,
So the
one town can have multiple different levels with all the different municipalities.
right, but the levy, remind me, the tax levy gets apportioned to the different districts from which we collect taxes, right?
Different towns, correct, yes. Based on the
Different
total amount of,
jurisdictions.
value in that town.
Right, so it would impact the other taxpayers in that jurisdiction that pay taxes towards the school tax levy. Does that make sense?
So we,
So
we
you and
robbed
I
Peter,
both
we
live
pay,
in.
robbing Peter to pay Paul, or Priscilla to pay Penny.
Well, you're affording an additional exemption to someone who the law allows to receive it if the district decides they want to give it.
And it hasn't been examined in approximately 7 years, because the last time it was looked at was when it was set originally in 2016, so.
But you're spreading whatever the value of that benefit is, you're gonna spread it among the other taxpayers from that jurisdiction who are contributing to the school tax levy. That's the effect, right? Because the number is finite. The pot is the pot.
Rob pays less, we all pay more.
7 years ago, when this was introduced, most districts granted the veterans exemption?
I don't know about most. I know that since it was an opt-in, some districts just said, no, not gonna touch it.
Right. It took a
But
lot-
I
took a
do
lot of
know
heat for that.
there was a lot of activity from veterans to go to school boards and say, hey, you've got this opportunity, please take advantage of it.
Right.
So,
Right.
And that happened here. And a level was selected, and that level was selected 7 years ago and hasn't changed in 7 years?
correct.
Okay.
All right. Should we just go around? I'm gonna take a page out of your book, Rachel.
Is it a lot of work for you to do the analysis, Jim? I mean, it'd be interesting to see how big of an impact it is.
It'll be a
Maybe.
reasonable amount of work, I don't think, I
Okay.
mean, it'll take some time, it might take probably 3 or 4 hours to pull that information together.
Might be helpful.
Yeah.
I hate to make you ask to do something though, but, but yeah, I mean, if we, I think we have to know how many people it affects and what the true cost is before we can really make any decision.
All right, so let's do that. So Jim, you'll have something ready for us for January?
Yes.
And that gives us enough time to get any change to the exemption level in place.
As long as there is action by essentially February 28th, you're good.
Okay, all right, so thank you, Jim, let's do that work.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jim.
And, then we'll see where we end up.
Okay.
Okay, great. All right, so that's all we had on our agenda for tonight. The last thing is just a reminder, our next meeting is gonna be February 6th.